Good evening, everyone. We have a special guest tonight. We have Erick Russell, the endorsed Democratic candidate for state treasurer. He is going to come and share all of his legislative priorities and his plans and what's happening with his campaign. He is our neighbor over in our neighboring town of New Haven. And we're so proud to have him on and talk to him about all of his work that he's done in his course, working his way up to state office and what he plans to do once he gets elected in November. So on the other side, we will be talking to Erick Russell, the endorsed Democratic candidate for state treasurer. Stand by. Let's go! Ho, ho! Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Rhonda?
Awesome, awesome. So happy to have you here this evening. You are the endorsed candidate for the Democratic position of state treasurer. We were just talking on the backstage before we got started about how at the convention, obviously, our whole crew here in the 8th district, the 1st district, the 3rd, the 5th, all of us were supporting you for nomination at the convention. And then when the first tally of votes came back, we were all like jumping. We were all jumping. I got a picture of the screen. And then they did the second round, and then it came back again, and then that was it. And it just was so great when you made your speech. I have it all. I actually videotaped it. It's all on our YouTube channel. That we were so proud to, our neighboring, you're right over in Westville, and we're here in Hamden, that you accepted the nomination from the Democratic Party, and they were chanting your name. They're like, Erick. So you got to tell us what that was like, because I was out in the audience. So tell us what it was like up on stage that day.
No, I really appreciate it. And first of all, thank you for having me on, and thank you for all you do in the community and with your platform, really getting the message out to what's going on in community and educating people around the state about what's happening. So thank you for that. And thank you for your support. I mean, like I said, it was surreal in many ways. It was being a first-time candidate, first time running for office. I've obviously been involved in politics and in government for some time. Serving on my local DTC in New Haven, having done some work with prior gubernatorial campaigns, having served as vice chair of the state Democratic Party, doing a lot of work on the national level with the DNC. But it's different when you're at the center of it sometimes. And we are really proud of the campaign that we built in a very short period of time, thanks to folks like you and Justin and so many around the state that really jumped on this campaign from day one, supporting it, understanding that, this isn't about me, but that this is really about building something that's a little bit different. And I think there are a lot of folks about seeing some generational change, seeing some new faces involved in politics, seeking office, and people from communities like ours, right? I'm born right on Dixwell Avenue, have lived in New Haven, moved back with my husband very shortly after I finished law school. My parents having, their small convenience store, first on Congress Avenue in New Haven, then on Dixwell Avenue, and their small restaurant in Hamden now. So I think a lot of people are excited about this kind of shift and seeing some new things reflected, and knowing that all of our communities are represented in government and in Hartford. So. I think we lost Rhonda here.
No, I'm here. Here we go. I'm telling you, we've been having some technical difficulties all night.
That's all right. We'll work through it.
Yes, but I was so interested. I didn't know your parents had a store here on Arch Street. Is it a restaurant or is it a store?
Yeah, it's a small restaurant. So my dad, I grew up. My parents, when they first moved here, my dad was a paratrooper in the Army, originally from Tennessee. And he was stationed in Germany toward the tail end of his career, where he met my mother. And they moved here, landed in New Haven. In large part, my dad had a friend here, and didn't want to move back south, being an interracial couple at the time. And so with what little resources they had, they started a small convenience store on Congress Avenue. And that was a store I grew up working in. We were there for quite some time, and then we opened People's Choice there on Dixwell and Bassett, which was their second store. Grew up working there. And then my dad just fairly recently opened Harold's Restaurant. And it's a lot of Southern cooking, a lot of soul food, you know, being from the South. That's home for us with food. So he's been there for a little bit. Rhonda, you're on mute.
Tell us about your campaign. Tell us about what's happening right now. What are your legislative priorities as state treasurer now? I mean, a lot of people don't even really know what that position does. We know it exists, but what do you guys do, and how is your campaign coming along?
Sure. So first of all, I think, yes, there's a lot of responsibilities under the role of treasurer, and it's a really important job, though I agree with you. I think there are a lot of people that don't know exactly what the role entails. But it's ultimately about making sure that we are fiscally sound as a state. And part of what I've viewed this campaign as is obviously the technical piece, the making sure that we are doing right as far as the fiscal health of the state. But I also think it's really important that we're looking at providing opportunities to make sure that there's prosperity for all of our residents. And, you know, Connecticut, we're doing very well fiscally under strong Democratic leadership. We've seen our state really take a turn. Balanced budgets, 4 balanced budgets now, record surpluses, huge contributions to our unfunded pension liability, which has not happened in decades. So we're seeing that the state really start to right itself under strong leadership. But it's also important to remember that there are a lot of people who are still really struggling. And that success, that financial success has not worked for everybody. And so my goal is really to bring that voice, being someone who grew up in a family that really struggled to make ends meet, grew up in a community where hardworking folks were really just trying to do what they could to get by. I think we need more of that voice reflected in Hartford, and that's what I hope to bring. So from that lens, you know, there's several issues that I'd like to take on here. There's responsibilities of obviously managing our state's pension funds, which is about $45 billion. It's money that hardworking state and municipal employees and teachers and retirees have paid into the state, right? And are counting on that money being there for them when they need it most. And so that's one of the critical roles. It's all of our debt management and investment, which is a lot of work that I do every day through my professional career. Where are we sending our resources? How are we building stronger, more vibrant communities? How are we making sure that we're managing our debt in a way that allows for us to have better bond ratings, which ultimately saves taxpayers money, allows us to invest in communities at the lowest cost to taxpayers. So that's another piece. But I have a lot of this laid out on the website. Financial literacy, I'm really looking to expand. We do a great job of financial literacy programs with adults. What I'd like to do is build a working group and develop curriculum that we can partner with our local boards of education and implement. So we have young folks who are coming out of school and know how to manage their money and know how to access resources. Baby bonds is another initiative that I'm very much in favor of. And obviously socially responsible investment, making sure that companies we're doing business with have value sets that align with ours as a state, that have strong labor practices, that they're keeping climate change in mind when they're making decisions, that we're not investing in gun manufacturers or folks that are doing harm by our community. So I could go on and on about the policy side of this and what I'm really looking to do, but I think that's the first piece, and happy to elaborate on the campaign a little bit more as well.
Yeah, well, I want to know about the campaign because, like I said, it's a statewide campaign, which is huge. You are being primaried, and the primary. Talk about the plans that you're working on for the primary. Do you need to raise any more money? Did you qualify for the CEP funds? Do you need help? Do you need people to knock doors, make phone calls? Do we need to rally the troops?
Yeah. So listen, our campaign is running very strong. We've been, so as you mentioned in the opening, we had incredible support at the convention. We had support from our largest cities to our smallest towns, from labor, from every corner of the state. And I think it shows, it's a testament to this campaign and that people are really excited about something new. And we've continued to build on that since the convention. So we were able to raise our money very quickly. So we've qualified already. We've been up on TV. We have our ad rolling. We're running a mail campaign. We are canvassing and making phone calls, doing everything we need to deliver. And, you know, the response has been incredible, but we're going to run like we're losing the entire time and keep our head down and do the work. Would love to have more people on board. We can sign up to volunteer on our website. But really, it's about getting our message out to voters. And it's also that, you know, this isn't at the forefront of everyone's mind right now. Everyone's enjoying the summer. You know, unfortunately, people are not as focused on this as maybe they should be. And so the biggest thing is going to be making sure that we're driving turnout and getting folks to the polls on August 9th. And we'll continue to do the work there. The other piece that I'm really proud of with this campaign is the endorsements that we've gotten, because I think it shows the broad base, I think, of support that we've had. We've had people like former Lieutenant Governor Nancy Wyman and Speaker of the House Matt Ritter, and Robin Porter, who have come out like right from the beginning and jumped on our campaign and have really been such a huge resource. We've also Congressman John Larson, the only member of our federal delegation to get involved in this project.
And it's hard to get folks to get involved in a primary. That's very hard.
Yeah. One out of our treasurer and Joe, who we're talking about this needed to make sure that Thrive is physically sound. No one knows that better than people who have served in this role.
Eric, I think you're breaking up a little bit. I think you froze up on us. You might have to refresh.
All right.
The internet is so taxed because everybody's in the house today because it's too hot to go outside. Sorry. Stand by, everybody. We're having internet issues. We want to make sure we hear our candidate Russell, because I know he's letting us know some really good information about his campaign. All right, let's see. All right, I think you're back.
How's that?
That's better. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Because you were breaking up for a little while there. I was like, uh-oh, he's breaking up.
You know where I left off?
No, I couldn't. You left off. You were telling us about your campaigning.
Okay. No, I think we were talking endorsements, and I said,
endorsements.
I mentioned a lot of the endorsements we've had across the state, from legislators to the comptroller Natalie Braswell to Nancy Wyman, and that one of the I think I'm really proud of the endorsements of our former treasurers, Denise Napier and Joe Suggs, who know what it takes to do this job well, that know the skill set that's required, that know the qualifications that are best suited for this role. And so I think we all know how serious, particularly Denise Napier, took this role and how hard she worked. And 20 years in, the first African-American female treasurer in the country, to have her support and along with her understanding of this job is really meaningful. So I'm really excited about that.
Well, I'm so excited to hear about your plans for the state pension, because I'll be hopefully getting mine sooner than later. So we're really excited to hear your plans on how you're going to invest those funds.
Yeah.
And keep the pension solvent. We in the state employees, the CBAC, we are it's a huge, we're such a good union, and we're so spoiled. Really are. We get so many, we just get so many great things, and the pension is one of those things, and that ours is solvent, whereas a lot of states are not. So we really need good leadership as a state treasurer. We also do a lot of with my state agency that I work for, we do a lot of bond financing and bond funds, and bonding. We bond out all of our tax credit deals and our deals that we get, so we have to go to the bond commission, and you'll be on that
Hmm.
bond commission, obviously. So there's a lot of work that we do with the state that does a lot for affordable housing. People don't have any idea. Like I'm trying to talk Marty Looney into bonding out vouchers for our state, so these
Hmm.
people don't have to worry about being evicted. They could just have a state voucher if they can't get a federal voucher. So, the bonding that you all are going to do as a state treasurer is so powerful. People don't even really know. And I think later on, once you're elected, we should have you come back and talk about these things to educate the community on what the treasurer does and how the taxpayers' funds get involved to really do great things in our community.
Yeah, I would love that. And we've had these conversations before, because this is the work that I do every day, right? Is representing municipalities and state agencies in the state of Connecticut in financing, the critical infrastructure that really makes our community stronger. It's the things that we rely on as community, building out our schools and transportation infrastructure and affordable housing and childcare facilities, our clean water programs. And again, I think the voice of someone with real connection to community and to our working families across the state is important here, because the treasurer does have a role in how we invest this money. And we need to make sure we're doing this in a way that's ultimately going to, again, lift people up, and that we're investing in all of our communities, that we're investing in our communities in a way that are providing better opportunities for people to grow, for economic growth, and for just, I think, more sustainable communities. And so would love to come back and talk about a lot of that with you in the future.
It'll be so cool. So tell us about your job, your current job, and what you do now, because I'm afraid a lot of people don't know what you currently do. So tell us about your current job and your
Sure.
experience.
So I'm a partner at a law firm called Pullman and Comley. It's an interesting thing because I was the first person. Again, my parents worked harder than anybody I've ever been around. But with their sacrifice and hard work, I was the first person in my family to graduate from college, law school, both here in Connecticut. And going to a law firm was one of the few things I knew I did not want to do coming out of law school. And I think part of that was just the fact that I had never really been around lawyers. I hadn't been exposed to a lot of the industry to know what opportunities were really out there. And I knew I wanted to do something that was ultimately about giving back to community. And at the time, didn't know the opportunities to do that through a law firm. So I've been at my firm now for 10 years. I'm a partner in our public and private finance group, where I, again, represent municipalities and state agencies in the state in how they finance critical infrastructure and make investments in our community and manage debt. And it's been great, because one of the good things about being a lawyer in finance is you get a very broad finance experience,
Right.
which I think is really important in this role, because we've talked about, there's obviously the investment of our pension funds, but there's so many different things that are required under this role. You're working with investors and underwriters and financial advisors and rating agencies. You are responsible for all of our general cash management. You oversee our unclaimed property division. You're working with a very broad team of finance experts. As we talk about the pension fund management. You're working with the chief investment officer. You're working with the investment advisory council. You're working with outside investment advisors. A lot of this work, it's things that I do on a day-to-day basis now. And so I'm excited about being able to bring that experience to this role, combined with my perspective, to really make sure not only are we protecting our assets and growing our pension funds, but that we're also keeping working families in mind as we're doing all of this. So
That is totally cool. And it's totally, like you said, you're already doing it now. You've got a long history. You're a partner at a very large law firm. I think I've heard that name before. So, I mean, they're kind of all over the state. And it's also interesting that you said you want to teach you want to get started, teaching the broad community on financial literacy. That's a big problem, especially in the Black and brown community.
yeah,
Black folks traditionally just don't understand about investing, and that you can get involved even on a small level, even understanding how 401ks work, and things like that. So, I mean, even I cannot wait until we can get someone in that seat with that type of like a lived experience, you know, in dealing with the community, and be able to take their experience as the state treasurer and put it down to a more granular level for the community to understand, and then how we can get involved. And I love, you know, the Connecticut Higher Education Trust. That was awesome.
Yeah,
That was an
yeah.
awesome plan. And to see more like that, where, you know, regular working people can get involved.
No, I think it's great. And I think, you know, I mentioned kind of bringing this up with in curriculum, because I think what we need to do is start to normalize these conversations, right? And have, I can tell you, as the first person again to go to college, when I was applying to schools, I wasn't thinking about how much the school cost necessarily. I wasn't thinking about how long it was going to take to pay off some of this debt. It was probably in college when I started to realize some of the avenues to cut down on cost, right? And what that was going to look like. But I
Right.
came up where it was like, it was a thing for me to go to college, right? And I didn't have those resources around me necessarily to be fully informed on what that looked like. And so I think having basic conversations around interest, right? And like people knowing
Right.
what compound interest is and how that impacts things and how to build credit, and just so that we are teaching kids early on that this is something that we all need to be paying attention to. And I think then it will carry itself on. And I think, you know, if you look at how our communities are actually going to grow and change the outlook in many ways, it's obviously going to be providing opportunity, but we want people to know what to do with those opportunities when they come up and when they present themselves as well. So
It's going to really be awesome, and it really to increase financial literacy across the state is a huge platform to help with, you know, our financial sustainability. You have to understand how this thing, our economic system works, and you know that can be a great role statewide. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that would be very helpful, and make it a part of curriculum. And you went to UConn, right?
I did. I went to UConn Law. Had a great
I
experience
love it.
there. You know, it was I was really fortunate because I, again, not knowing much about law school going into it, right? I didn't have a lot of lawyers to lean on. I didn't know fully what I was getting into, but it was such a great collegial environment. You hear some horror stories about really competitive law schools and how people really
Yeah.
kind of fight to make sure that they're on top of things. And I just didn't have that experience at all. So I've been in Connecticut my whole life. I had a great experience there, and they really prepared me well for future in law.
I know, like I was like when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's it. That's it. He gets my vote. You know, he's a UConn Husky. You know, the Huskies. You know, we're like Husky fanatics over here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's big here.
you know, it's great. So, tell us about your campaign. What do you need? How to, you know, if anybody wants to get involved, how do they sign up? Do they go to your website? Tell us more about that so we can, you know, whatever support you need, we can get the help out there.
Yeah, so certainly, so the website is Erick, ERICKFOR, so Erick4CT.com. There's links there to sign up to volunteer. There's also more detail about our platform and news that we have kicking around and endorsements. So I think the biggest thing right now would be folks being willing to volunteer and jump on the phone and do phone banking, which we're doing very regularly. You know, again, we are excited for all of the momentum and excitement and enthusiasm around the campaign. And we've been traveling all over the state. I think I've had 6 stops today from pretty much every corner of the state. We had about 14 over the last 2 days.
Wow.
Please follow all of our social media. You really can get a sense of how hard we're working and the events that we're going to, and how we're getting our message out to voters. But I think, you know, some willingness to phone bank or do whatever you can there would be much appreciated.
Well, that's so awesome. We were going to try to figure out how to run your commercial. I can't kind of figure it out here because like our internet connection's a little
Okay.
wonky tonight. But I'm going to actually download it and run it as its own little separate entity after we're
Perfect.
off, so we'll be able to see it. So if you want to tell us a little bit more about anything else that we want to know about we already know about the campaign, we know about your parents,
Yeah.
you know about your legislative priorities. Is there anything else? Because I know there's so much. I mean, there's so much about who you are, and I just don't want you to feel rushed because, you know, like I was just talking to Michael Ortati, I'm like, whenever you talk and have these little conversations,
Yeah.
everybody gives you like 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes, you got to squeeze it all
No.
in. And then you get 35 minutes. And we're like, okay, so what are we going to talk about? Right.
Yeah. No, listen, I think there's several pieces. There's one I would mention on the ad when everyone sees it. We're really proud of it. I think our goal with that was really to tell a little bit about my story and just the kind of a little bit about my background and qualifications. And so I hope that comes across. But it was really cool because I was able to film that with my nephew, who is playing kind of a young me in the ad. So it was cool to see Carson's kind of debut on the screen, and he was really excited about it, which was fun.
I knew he had to be related. I was like, that child looks too much like Erick. And I know you don't have a son, so I was like, okay, it's got to be a family member.
Yeah. So no, that was cool. I think outside of that, we know each other from a lot of different settings and work that I've done, obviously around LGBTQ plus advocacy that I've really been involved in and social justice issues, but also work with the party and work in politics. But I think so much of what drives me is really my upbringing and where I come from, and being committed to ultimately giving back in any way that I could. And again, making sure that there is a voice, there is representation from communities like ours. And so I think that piece of this is really important, is that the qualifications piece is all there, and that's great, right? But it's about even outside of just the day-to-day responsibilities of the treasurer, you have a platform and you have an opportunity to use your voice to speak up and to talk about issues that are important and to advocate for issues that are important. And that's fully what I intend to do in this role.
And this is what we talk about, like, when we say that we need, new, fresh ideas and new candidates and whatnot, lived experiences matter. Your lived experience of being the first generation, college, and then going on to law school, graduating, a partner. Obviously, you're, a young person to be a partner for 10 years and being work. I mean, also people need to see that young Black and brown men and women need to see that this type of thing is attainable. You can be a first generation person. I mean, you can inspire other people to do these kind of things and to break these stereotypes that we're all locked into. We don't have to be chained to stereotypes. And I just think that that's what you kind of embody, and people go, oh, they're first generation. Yes, in this day and age, people are just now going to school.
Yeah, no, and listen, I don't think that that's the only path, but I do think that it's important. And I've had many people along the trail talk to me about the fact that, right, like me being represented in this campaign, or me having this opportunity, me getting this support is meaningful to them, because it's a realization for them that they have those opportunities in the future too. Or people were saying, my kid saw your commercial and said, this is something that I could do. And I don't dwell on that in a way, because again, it's not about me at all, but it's about the fact that there aren't enough people with these real lived experiences and stories represented and reflected in our government. And that's the only way you're going to make sure that government is actually representing all of our residents, is to have real people in these roles as well.
Real people. Yeah.
I think the other piece of it, right, is that this is not going to be an easy election cycle at all. I know that we've again been very fortunate. The governor is the most popular Democratic governor in the country. We've done really great work. We've seen really strong Democratic leadership. That being said, I mean, Republicans are going to throw everything they have at this. And I think what's really important is that we have to put together the strongest ticket we can to win in November. With our current slate, I'm the only person from a city represented, from a large city represented on the ticket. We need to make sure that we have diversity in age and race and everything else, but we also need to make sure that geographically we're representing different areas of our state, and that we have people, again, who understand all of our communities with a seat at the table. So we're turning out the maximum number of votes that we can and really engaging all of our citizens. So, we have really been working hard to continue to do that, to continue to build momentum. We have a primary on August 9th, so I'm asking for everyone's support. there, so
Yes.
that we can continue on to the general and make sure that we're able to deliver.
You will be on row A.
Yes, row A, row
You
A.
will be on row A. I from a person who ran on row C, I'm telling you, row A is way better. And that's why it was so important for you to win at that convention, and you won handily. And I was very, like I said, I kind of got goosebumps myself because that whole crowd, we were all kind of like, watching this whole thing, your whole turn into politics unfold right before our eyes. And then at the end, when you were up there with the whole ticket, with Governor Lamont and Lieutenant Governor Bicewicz and Stephanie Thomas, who's amazing, and she's going to be on next Sunday to talk with me, which is we're all excited to hear from her. It just was, I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about it because like this is awesome. Like Connecticut, as much as we are a blue state, we're a very conservative type of blue state. So to be able to have that kind of diversity standing up at that podium at that time is powerful. And my daughter, my 13-year-old daughter was able to be there to watch this, so it's so powerful. I know you don't, I know you're saying it's not about you, but it really is. She wants to go to law school.
Mhm.
And, and I always talk about how, when she gets to be this age, I might be the one introducing her one day up on that podium. Here's
Yeah,
my daughter. She went to law school and
yeah,
she wants to now be whatever. And we have to see things that we can aspire to be. Little black and brown children, women, men, LGBTQ, they need to see that they can aspire to these things. These are attainable goals. You can be a partner in a law firm. You can run for state treasurer. You can be the governor. You can run for president. You can be anything you want to be if you believe in it and you believe in yourself and you believe in hard work, and being honest and doing the things that are all for community. And like you said, you're doing this. This is great for you, but it's all really for community.
yeah.
The community, the state of Connecticut as a community.
No, I totally agree. And it's, one of the most surreal moments of that was actually with my parents being there at the convention, right?
Was it
Because,
not awesome? I'm sure they were
like,
crying. I
yeah,
would have been crying.
my dad, just turned 80 this year. He turned 80 just before the convention, and he's worked his entire life to make sure I had opportunities he'd never had. And for him to
Hmm.
be there in that moment, just knowing it was the same thing for me with law school, it was really cool. It would be one of my um, biggest kind of idols and political um, just giants was John Lewis, and he was
Oh
actually
yeah.
uh, my commencement speaker for law school graduation. And again, to sit there and see my father watching John Lewis at his son's law school graduation was just knowing how proud he was, knowing what it meant to him, knowing that all the work that he put in, he felt like it was worth it, was huge. And I definitely felt the same way at the convention. And again, there's so many, young people that I think are just excited about the opportunity to see some of these things change a little bit and see some new faces involved. And so it was very exciting.
Oh yes, it really was. And like I said, I have a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree from University of New Haven in public administration. And I've been a public servant almost 30 years now. I've been, doing affordable housing, because I am an advocate, a firm advocate that we should have no homeless people in the state of Connecticut
Hmm.
or anywhere in our country, but definitely not in what the fifth wealthiest state in the union. We shouldn't. There's more than enough resources here, to prevent that and to eliminate that completely. So I'm so excited, that we are like the ticket is so filled with just regular folk. Like I said, people who already know what life is, have had to work, and know what the struggle looks like, and having to be disciplined and do all the things that we have to do to try to find success. And so I'm just so excited that we can continue to have that on the ballot. And we're so looking forward to it. We can get past this primary, then get on to the general election. And we'll be looking for you on row A. And that's
Thank
the
you.
awesome row
Thank
to
you.
be
Thank you.
on.
I appreciate
Awesome
it.
row.
Yeah.
Um, it's the awesome row. I'm
I
telling you, I've been on
appreciate it.
row C. It's
I
hard.
appreciate it.
But if there's, like I said, if there's anything else we can do, and also, let's talk more about coming back once we get past the primary, which we
Sure.
believe we will. And then let's talk some more about the general election, rolling out the plans for, when you get elected in November. And then we can talk more, because I really want to hear more about, that financial literacy piece, especially for young people, especially in the economy. I mean, do you see this inflation, the highest in 40 years?
Yeah.
We're heading for a recession. We need to explain to everybody what that means and what we need to do to prepare for that. There's a way to prepare for that. If we get into a recession, how do we prepare for it? And that's a big part of the financial literacy that our community needs to know.
Yeah, and I mean, not to get back into the weeds on this a little bit, but it's also important as we think about the Treasury's office, right? Because you talk about inflation, you talk about things changing in the market, you talk about potential recessions. These are all things that greatly impact our pension funds as well. And so, really being able to make sure that we are ahead of the curve here, that we are building out a diversified investment portfolio that really can weather an inflationary environment. There's so many different pieces to this role. Again, I think what's important and what I've really been trying to talk about is, yes, there's these technical pieces and it's moving the office forward, and that I'm excited to build a strong team out and do all of the things we need to do to make sure our state is moving in the right direction fiscally, but also like, how are we thinking about, more importantly, how these things in the market, how these issues in the Treasurer's office are impacting working people, and how do we make sure they're ahead of the curve for building out programs and policies and practices for providing better opportunity for working families in the state.
Well, that's awesome. And see, these talks get my goal is to have the community to get to know you, and get to know what your priorities are, and kind of where you are, where your mindset is as far as this position, because it's more than just a title. It's a huge responsibility to be in charge of the state of Connecticut's money, and pensions and the promises that are made to people who are getting ready to retire. So it's really huge, and it's just as we continue to educate, and that's all I want to do on Hampton Action Now, is educate people on the political process and how it drills down to us. We don't, a lot of times people are like, I don't really care, whatever. I'm like, you have to care. This is really important stuff. We need to know about it. And so I'm so looking forward to talking more with you, even, once you get past all these elections and things. I know this is a very stressful time. It's a lot of work, and there's a lot of moving parts. So,
well, we're having fun with it all. We're going to keep our head down and do the work. And I thank you for everything that you're doing. I thank you for using your platform to really provide these opportunities for people to hear from folks who are running and to hear about issues that are important to the community. And looking forward to keeping up the work and the fight with you through this primary, and then wherever we go from there.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and I will be in touch with you shortly. I'm going to run your video right after this.
Okay,
so
great.
It'll be on all of our channels. It'll be on Facebook, YouTube, and our Twitter channel.
Thank you so much.
And we'll be talking more, and good luck on August 9th.
Thank you.
You got to let me know where you're going to be poll standing, because I want to make sure I stop by there.
All right. Very good. I'll be bouncing around, so I'll let you know.
All right. Take care. Have a good night.
Thanks, Brenda. Take care.
Take care.